So today we're going to dive into a story that's a little different. It's not about some huge historical event or a major scientific breakthrough. Nope, it's about a place. A small, maybe almost forgotten place that, for one person, was basically the whole world. We're getting into a personal story about a childhood landmark that I bet is going to feel super familiar to a lot of you.
No, really, just stop for a second and think about it. That specific smell of the food court, the sound of the fountain echoing, the stores you always had to go into. For a whole generation, the mall wasn't just a place you went to buy stuff, it was a destination.
I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, malls were everything. They were these cultural hubs where you'd hang out with your friends, maybe go on a first date, spend your allowance. They were basically the town square, just with a roof over it.
But we're not talking about some giant, sprawling complex with 3 floors and an ice rink. Nope. What we're talking about today is the Free State Mall in Bowie, Maryland, a place that kind of proves that size has absolutely nothing to do with how big the memories are.
And yeah, that's a direct quote from the person whose memories we're walking through. Dinky. I mean, it's not exactly a compliment, right? But it just perfectly sets the tone. This wasn't a place that was supposed to overwhelm you. It was a place that felt personal, that felt like it was yours.
All right, so let's step inside. What did this perfectly dinky mall actually look and feel like? Well, it was a single-level building, pretty modest, exactly what the town of Bowie needed back then.
So, you gotta picture it. The whole place was held down by these two, totally different anchors on each end. On one side, it was all fun and games with the Fair Lanes bowling alley, and on the complete opposite end, you had the everyday, gotta-get-it-done shopping at a Woolco department store. Okay, so for anyone out there who's like, whoa, what now? You gotta understand, Woolco was a pretty big deal. It came from the same company as Woolworths, and it was basically your one-stop shop for, well, just about everything, way before Target or Walmart were on every corner. Okay, so let's take a walk. When you walk down that main hallway between the bowling alley and the Woolco, it didn't really feel like a mall we'd think of today. It was more like, I don't know, a classic small-town main street, but, safe from the rain.
And the stores, they weren't these giant, flashy brands. Nah, it was all about real-life stuff. You had your tailor shop, an arts and crafts store, a place to get stationery, a greeting card shop, a little jewelry store, and the barber shop, Razor's Edge, and of course, a shoe store.
And this right here, this is what it's all about. It's a perfect example of how a kid's memory works. To an adult, it's just a shoe store, but to him, it was the shoe store, the one with that awesome little bridge. A simple piece of store design turned into something totally magical.
Okay, get this. The Free State Mall didn't have a food court. Can you even imagine a mall without a food court today? It's wild. But that didn't mean food wasn't a huge deal. Actually, it was kind of the opposite. The places to eat there, they were destinations all on their own.
So, the main pizza joint inside the mall was this place, Happy Italian Delight. It was a local legend, man, famous for its New York-style pizza. And it had this kind of fun, friendly rivalry going on with the author's parents' own pizzeria, which was right outside the mall. A little pizza war in Bowie, Maryland. Love it.
But for our storyteller, pizza wasn't the food memory. No, the real heart of the mall, the place where the best memories were made, was a restaurant called Father's. And this place, well, this place was something else. Imagine walking into a place straight out of the 1890s, like a classic old-timey soda shop. They had great deli sandwiches, Reubens and turkey clubs. But the real star of the show was the ice cream. They had this huge counter with a dozen flavors. People raved about their hot fudge sundaes. But for our author, the signature treat, the one that mattered most, was a pistachio ice cream cone.
And that pistachio ice cream cone, it wasn't just, a snack. It was the absolute highlight of a very specific, very important ritual. It was the core of what made a trip to the mall so special.
So here's how it went down. The whole adventure started with something not so fun, a haircut. A trip to the Razor's Edge barbershop, usually with his dad. You gotta do the chore first, right?
And I mean, come on, who doesn't relate to this? That moment right after you've been good and done the boring thing, and you start negotiating for the reward. For him, that prize was always that pistachio cone from Father's.
But the ritual didn't stop there. With ice cream in hand, they'd head to the mall's big fountain, in the middle of everything. And for the cost of just 1 penny, you got to make a wish. A penny for a wish. Such a simple, perfect little moment.
And the treasure hunt still wasn't done, because for just a quarter, you could buy yourself a private movie screening.
It was this machine called a Kitty-Rama, and it was pure, unfiltered magic, especially in a world before YouTube or streaming. You'd climb inside this thing that looked kind of like a photo booth, pop in your quarter, and boom, a classic cartoon from the 40s or 50s would play just for you. Your own little private movie theater. How cool is that?
So, when you start to put all these little pieces together, the bowling alley, the barbershop, that little bridge in the shoe store, the fountain wishes, the ice cream, the Kitty-Rama, you really start to get why a place like this leaves such a lasting impression. Look, it didn't have the big, flashy stuff. There was no movie theater, no video arcade, no massive toy store. But what Free State Mall did have was something way more important. It was a perfect stage for creating memories.
And that's really what it all comes down to, isn't it? The author's mall is long gone now, but the memories are obviously still so vivid. It really makes you think, what's the dinky little place from your past that holds some of your absolute biggest and best memories?